Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope we're having a wonderful day. I've got a pretty quick update for you today. I'm actually running a little bit late for work, so I do apologize if this video is slightly rushed. But I think a slightly rushed, condensed video is better than no video at all. So just a little heads up on that. Also, some good news: I don't work again until Sunday after this shift today, so we should have more of a kind of regular and maybe a little bit better video quality over the next couple of days, just because I'll have a little bit more free time to work with. But with that said, today we are going to talk about this low pressure still kind of meandering off the southeast coast and where I expect that to go this Memorial Day weekend, and who will unfortunately likely have a pretty soggy weekend because of that. So that's really going to be the main topic of today's video. But other than that, we still have a pretty nice couple of days ahead for a lot of us here in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, as well as the Midwest and Ohio River Valley. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we'll start with radar here, and again, we are still dealing with this big time area of showers down here into the southeast, and like I talked about yesterday, this has really been pretty well confined here to I-26 kind of westbound. So that's kind of a pretty good dividing marker here to look at on the map, but it's been really a pretty cloudy, rainy day in places like Birmingham, Atlanta, back down towards Macon and Montgomery, and we even still have this flood watch up here into sections of Florida as we continue to see this rain over the next day or so. And looking at, another component of that today is that severe weather threat. And again, this map is pretty similar to yesterday's map, as we do have this marginal risk down here into Florida, as well as a slight risk back out into western Texas. So watching those two areas today for the chance of some stronger storms. And you can also see kind of this wedge of dry air kind of on this map, as well as you can kind of see this area of thunderstorms kind of being pushed down to the south and west from that wedge of drier air being pumped in by that high pressure up into New England. Now, looking at the next 18 hours or so here on future radar, excuse me, again, kind of watch down here into the southeast, as well as kind of back over here towards Texas today for some severe weather. And as we move this ahead, again, you'll notice the rain really picks up over the Florida Peninsula going into tonight, and also we get these big time storms back out into Texas, as well as we go into this evening and after the sun sets. Also, another thing to note here is this is that kind of cold front up into Canada finally working down, and that's that reinforcing dry air that we've been talking about for the past couple of days. That will begin to work on into the country going into later this evening and into the overnight. So this is midnight here. You can tell by the time we hit midnight, I do expect some drying out here into the southeast, but unfortunately during that time, these storms into Texas really begin to fire up, and this cold front will begin to advance to the south as well. As we move this ahead into kind of tomorrow morning, again, you'll notice this cold front continuing to sag southward into the upper Midwest and the Northeast, and also still dealing with these showers and storms here into sections of the Southeast. Really for the same folks who have already been dealing with it, still dealing with it by the time we get into tomorrow morning. All right, so zooming this out a little bit and looking at this more of a national view, again, here's that cold front sweeping on down south, and then here's still that area of storms off the southeast coast and into sections of Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. As we move this ahead going into tomorrow afternoon, again, you'll notice this cold front begins to sweep on through the northeast, which could bring some rain, but I doubt, we get any kind of thunderstorms or any kind of severe weather out of that, luckily, just kind of some good old-fashioned rain. But as we continue to move this ahead, that high pressure finally begins to sink into areas further to the south of the eastern half of the country, and by the time we're getting into Friday afternoon, we have likely really nice weather up here into the northeast, the Midwest, and even down here through the mid-Atlantic, as well as this wedge of drier air is kind of pushed in. Now, unfortunately, this could spell big-time rain troubles for the coast because of this boundary that sets up. So, again, we're going to be getting some air that kind of clashes here as you get flow this way and flow this way. Some of this air is going to run into each other and begin to rise and cause, a lot of very heavy continual rain here off the southeast coast going into Friday afternoon, but this could sneak inland a little bit. Now, as we get further into Saturday, this low pressure is finally really going to kind of get its act together and condense down off the southeast coast. And this is the Euro model that we're looking at, I should add. And you'll notice this really begins to kind of get its act together a little bit and almost, potentially flirt with becoming a tropical system. So this could get our A name, which I believe is Arlene, if I'm not mistaken. I very well could be wrong on that, though, so maybe fact check me there. But this could very well become a tropical storm. But luckily, even if it does, that doesn't really change the impacts we're going to see out of this low pressure as it moves inland during the second half of this weekend. One trend I will note from the Euro this afternoon is this has really brought the landfall of this low pressure further to the south and to the west. So yesterday's Euro run kind of had this up going into North Carolina. Today this is kind of down more towards the Savannah, Charleston area. So that's not to say that this is definitely going to happen. And in fact, I still lean a little bit more towards kind of a Myrtle Beach, Wilmington kind of area for this low pressure to come inland. But we'll watch it. We'll watch the trends. And no matter what, wherever this thing comes inland this weekend, we're going to have some big time rain and just really not great Memorial Day weekend weather. And I really think Sunday will probably be the worst of any day this weekend. So maybe if you can, Saturday, maybe you can kind of get those plans in before Sunday. I think it gets, not nearly as nice, and likely that sticks around going into Monday as well, as this low pressure kind of just meanders around here into the southeast. So definitely going to watch that. Another way to look at this, and something I like to do, is look at our ensemble members. So that was the Euro operational run I just showed you, but if we look at the GFS ensembles, which are all the GFS members, you notice we get a pretty different picture on where this low pressure comes inland. So, sorry, a fly in my room is flying around me. Anyway, so looking at Saturday afternoon here, you kind of see this cluster of low pressures, again, more towards the kind of Wilmington, Myrtle Beach area, and even up towards the Outer Banks, and kind of brings it inland there, which would bring more of that rain into places like Raleigh, Greensboro, as well as Virginia, compared to South Carolina and Georgia that the operational Euro run showed. So, again, kind of still some different pieces of this puzzle to put together and look at to know exactly who's going to get the worst impacts out of this. But again, no matter where this landfalls, that is going to be the place that likely sees most of the rain, and especially, I would say, to the east of the center of this low. So looking at the QPF mean, which just means who's going to see the rain within a 6-hour period here from, again, our GFS ensemble members. As we move this ahead, you can see wherever this low pressure comes inland this weekend is going to see the worst of that rain, and again, likely even to the east of that center a little bit, I would imagine as well. So again, this is another one of those reasons why maybe your weather app isn't the best thing to use in a scenario like this, because a lot of the weather apps might, just kind of use that operational Euro run, where it dumped a ton of rain here into upstate South Carolina and surrounding areas. But if you look at the GFS ensemble members, a place like Greenville is just at, a half of a tenth of an inch to a tenth of an inch of rain. So, again, a lot of different pieces of this puzzle to put together. And I guess really what I'm just trying to say here in the end is we still have a lot of uncertainty on exactly where the highest impacts are going to be from this low pressure this weekend. But what we are confident is someone is going to get, unfortunately, a really rainy weekend. So another map I want to show you here is our Euro lightning flash density map, and I showed this to you mainly to show you a pattern change I do see on the horizon after this low pressure kind of moves inland. I think we're going to finally run out of this nice dry air that is being pumped down by all these high pressures that have kind of reinforced each other here. So again, as we move this ahead, you'll notice this lightning that's really stuck out in the plains right now is going to kind of begin to migrate eastbound in the long range, and we'll likely get back into more of a stormy pattern here into the East Coast. So it's kind of maybe a little difficult to see on this map. I probably should have picked a better map to show it on, but I guess we'll kind of stop it at this frame. Anyway, you'll notice, again, we get more of that thunderstorm activity further east compared to where we're seeing it right now, I think in that 7 to 10 day period. And likely also we'll see those dew points climb back up as well, which I'll try to pull up here and show to you if it'll load in time. We'll see. Unfortunately, my internet is running a little bit slowly today, but this is probably a better map to actually show you that pattern change that I am talking about. So we'll see if this loads here. Looks like it might not want to. All right. Looks like it is now. So again, right now we're luckily getting some of that drier air here in the east because of that high pressure. But as we get kind of further into the long range and into this following weekend and into especially next week, would expect kind of these dew points back out this way to slowly migrate their way back eastbound, and we'll get into a bit more of that summertime pattern. So again, this is Thursday I'm showing you here, still very comfortable as that reinforcing cold front sweeps on down and brings some of those drier dew points, and that lasts likely into Friday afternoon as well as maybe even into Saturday before this weekend. Wherever this kind of low pressure works inland, we're going to see an increase in that muggy weather as it brings in some more of that kind of Atlantic flow. And again, especially on the eastbound of that low pressure, seeing some of that more muggy weather, and can't rule out maybe a couple of severe storms with it as well. Again, I'm kind of having to ramble on here as this takes forever to load. But this is now going into this Sunday, and again, you'll notice on the east side of this low pressure kind of really pumping in these dew points. That also indicates that it's pumping in precipitable water, so that's also going to help to increase that rainfall potential as well on the east side of that low. But again, finally, once we get into the long range, this is finally loading now, you do notice that we get more of that southerly flow to return to the eastern half of the country and bringing back up those higher dew points. So definitely going to watch out for that in the 7 to 10 day. So again, sorry if this video was a little rushed and a little condensed. I'm just kind of running a little late today, so I do apologize about that. But if you have any questions maybe I didn't answer in this video, feel free to ask me in the comments. And also, just thanks for coming back. If you are one of those regular viewers, it does mean a lot to me. With that said, though, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow.